Welcome to the Extreme Rate channel. In this video we're going to be showing you how you fit the plastic and metal Rise remap kit to the latest version of the DualSense, which is the BDM030. Now you can see here on the photo on the left hand side for a reference, just so you know that you do have the latest version of the DualSense. Now we're going to do the same thing we'll always do, show you what you get inside the box and then go straight to the install. Now the back cover here that we do have is the textured one. It's my favourite one, and then these are just the paddles and the back pieces. You've got the ribbons what come for the kit, and you've got a prying tool and a screwdriver. You also will get some spare screws in the packet just in case you lose any or you do need some spare. As always, you get your little warranty card. And then now we're just going to go straight to the install. So the first thing that you're going to do is remove L1 and R1. To do this, you're just going to grab your prying tool and you're just going to put it in where is marked. You're going to go left and right, and then the L1 and R1 should just come straight out. Once you've done that, on the bottom here you're going to be removing this. Again, if you grab your prying tool and if you just push it in the corner, and then it should lift out, and then just work away along the line, and then the same with the other side, lift it up and work along the line. Once you've done that, this is pretty easy to just lift up and move out the way. The next thing that you're going to be doing is removing two screws on the bottom, which are marked here, one on the left and one on the right. To remove these, obviously you're going to go anti-clockwise. And once both them screws are going to be removed, you're going to turn the control pad upside down and you have another two screws, again on the left and the right hand side, which will be going anti-clockwise. Once both them screws are removed, all you're going to do is turn the control pad around, and if you look here you've got two tiny little tabs, one on the left and one on the right. All you're going to do is get your prying tool, put it behind and just lift up a tiny little bit, just so you've got some access, and it will move the other part of the tab out the way. And then you're just going to come to the side here, you're going to put your prying tool in and you're going to just pry the rest of the case open. If you do have a brand new case, this might be a little bit harder, but don't worry, you will get it done. And then you just want to remove the back piece and put it to one side. The next thing that you're going to do is remove the battery. To do this, all you're going to do is lift the battery up and remove the connection. After you've done that, you've got a tiny little screw what's in place on the battery tray. Again, you're going to go anti-clockwise, so we're going to remove that now. When you've removed that screw, you've got another two screws. You've got one on the left and one on the right hand side here, which is marked. You're going to remove these anti-clockwise. When you've removed both them screws, you're going to be removing this ribbon cable on the bottom here. This is just one of the ones for the microphone. It just lifts up and moves to one side, and then when you do that, just remove the tray. You've got another little ribbon on the bottom here, which you're going to just remove with your fingers, but if you are having difficulty, just use some tweezers. You've got another one on the right hand side here, and again you're just going to remove that with your fingers. It's normally this top one that's the difficult one, so if you are having trouble, you can either grab some tweezers or you can put a little piece of tape on like this and then just gently lift it up. And then the last one is on the left hand side here. Again, you can probably do this with your fingers. Once you've done that, the whole board should move out the way. And then behind here you've got the trackpad. To remove that, you're just going to press down on the bottom part of the trackpad and it'll release it. You've got another little screw what is in the top right hand corner here. You're going to be removing this, again anti-clockwise. When you've removed that, if you grab your prying tool and you're just going to put it in this little bit here, what's marked, and that should release it, or it should open it I should say. And then just give it a little wiggle and this will come out. Just be careful for the ribbon cable that you don't damage that. The next thing is to take the cable out. To do this, you just simply pull it and just put it to one side. This right here is going to be the tiny little point that you're going to be soldering. Now inside the packet you should have a tiny thin piece of cable what came with it. And this is what it looks like. So if you grab your soldering iron and you've got some fresh solder and you're just going to put it on top of that point just so you've got a little bit of a better connection. And then if you grab the wire and you just solder it in place. And there we'll have it, that's done, that's what it should look like. And then the flex cable or the ribbon cable that you removed, you just want to put back in. That simply just pushes back into place. And then if you grab the other part that you took off, and you're going to put the wire through first, and then you're going to put the ribbon cable through just after. And then just make sure everything is lined up. And then the screw that you did remove earlier, we're just going to refit that and we're going to put that clockwise. When that screws in, you're going to be putting the trackpad back in place. To do that, you're going to have to remove your options and your share button. And then you can see here, this is the way that you're going to put the trackpad in, and it should just slot into place. If the rubber pieces here are in the way, just move them out the way. And then just grab your share and your options button and just replace them back where they came from. And then if you grab your board or the rest of the control pad, and we're going to be fitting the little strip for the L3 and R3. You've got the little points here what are shown. You've got this one on the left hand side and the one on the right hand side. A little closer up picture for you here. This is where you're going to be soldering onto. So inside the kit you got this little piece here. Just make sure this is the right way when you fit it. Don't fit it the wrong way. So you can see that is the right way. And then we're just going to put this into place on the points that's needed. Now to hold this down, you'd probably be best using a little piece of tape, just to hold it into place so it doesn't move anywhere when you're soldering. And you can do this on both sides, on the left and the right hand side. Now if you grab your soldering iron and some fresh solder, and then all we're going to do is just touch this on the points. It's pretty easy to do this. This is probably the easiest soldering that you're going to have to ever do. And then both sides exactly the same. And then if you grab some tweezers, and this is just to make the connection a little bit better if you want to press down and you want to go over the solder again, just make sure everything is in place. Once you've done all that, the next thing you're going to do is just remove this tape that you had on the board that was holding everything down. Just be careful when you remove this, don't pull it too hard because obviously you don't want to pull the ribbon off. Same with the right hand side, just pull it and it should just come straight off. You can see here the points that are getting shown where you soldered, just to show you what it does look like. Again, this is what it should look like. Now after you've done that, what you're going to do is grab the front fascia of the control pad and you're going to put the board back on top of it. And then this green piece here of the board, the middle bit, you're just going to be moving to one side or lifting up and moving out the way. And you can see here the FPC cable, you're going to be really careful with this. You're just going to lift that up. It's only held in by two tiny little sort of tabs. You should have this tape. We're going to use this for a little bit better contact. All you're going to do is either use your fingers or some tweezers. Pull a piece of this off, and we're just going to put this down on top of where the FPC cable was. Just be careful when you line it up. And then once that is lined up, just use your fingers to press it down into place, just so you know you've got a little bit of a better connection. And then if we replace the FPC on top, both sides, make sure they're in place on the left and the right. It should look like this. And then inside the kit you've got this little ribbon what came with it. This is the one with the adhesive. There's a tiny little point on here what you're going to be using for the trackpad. This is obviously so you can remap the trackpad. The wire what we used originally, what we'll put the little bit solder on, you're just going to be putting the other part onto this. So if you get your soldering iron again and just put a little bit fresh solder on here, so you've always got a better connection. And then if you grab the other part of the wire what we used for the trackpad, we're just going to be soldering this onto this point. And it's as easy as that. Once that's done, it should look like this. And the next thing we're going to be doing is just lining this up. You can see here there's two tiny little holes on the board and there's two tiny little holes on the back of here. You also do have some adhesive what you're going to be removing, which will hold this into place. So if you just use your fingernails or something just to remove that. And then if you can see here, if you just line that up with the two holes. And once it is lined up and you think it's in place, just press it down with your thumb. And that should hold that in place. It should look like this. And then we'll have it. That's a little bit of a closer picture for you. This little picture here is just to show you that the speaker is in place. I know on the old ones the speaker did fall out. It had a tendency to fall out, but you just put them straight back in. Now when you are putting the board back together like this, when you're all sandwiching it, the ribbons can get in the way. You can see this bottom one, if you are having troubles with that, just use a little screwdriver just to move it out the way. But make sure none of them are trapped behind the green piece here. And there's a little hole in here. When you do press this down, the plastic piece on the back of the FPC should come through, just so you know everything's lined up. And then all we're going to do now is replace all the ribbon cables. That was the bottom one, and this is the right hand side one. And then we're going to go ahead with the top one. And finally the one on the left hand side. They just all press down straight into place. Now the next thing is to put the battery tray in. We've got a little ribbon on the bottom here. We're just going to lift that over, but be really careful with this because they are very delicate. And then that just kind of goes like under over, or over under, and then you just press it down. And then the screw that we removed earlier, we're just going to be replacing that again clockwise. When you've tightened that screw up, the next thing you're going to be doing is replacing the battery that you took out earlier. To put that in, you're going to be putting the connection in first. It just simply presses in, and then just tuck the wires underneath here and just put the battery on the tray. Now here on the back we'll have more adhesive what you're going to be removing. This will just hold this in place. So if you just pick at this and remove it with your fingernails, and then if you just kind of line it up, it doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as it is lined up and on the back of the battery, you should be good. And just press that down with your fingers, and that's what it should look like. This little wire that you've got, you can just maneuver it a little bit and tuck it somewhere so it's kind of hidden away, or just out the way I should say. It's probably best to put it on the right hand side here where the connections are, where the battery is. It doesn't have to be perfect, like I say, it's just to get it out the way so it's not dangling around or anything like that. And then once you've done that, on the back here you do have a tiny little latch what you're going to lift up, and if you grab this ribbon and you push it into it and then you press the latch down so it locks it into place, that's what it should look like. That latch is obviously just for your L3 and R3. And then we're going to replace the 2 screws that we took out earlier. Again, we're going to go clockwise to put these in. When both them back screws are in, you can just move this part of the controller to one side, and now we're going to be focusing on the back. You can see here, this is the textured grip one, like I mentioned earlier. That's my favourite one, so if you are going to get these, I recommend you get that one. So inside the kit, you've got this tiny little plastic piece here. This is going to be the holder bit, and it's going to keep the paddles in, which is one of the paddles here. So if you grab your screwdriver, you might have a little bit paint residue or something inside here. So all you want to do is grab your screwdriver, and the little holes here for the rods, you're just going to be putting your screwdriver in and you're just going to be turning it left and right. And hopefully if your rod doesn't go in, that'll fix it. It's like I say, just in case there is any sort of paint residue or anything like that. Now you're just going to put the rod straight in here in the hole and just line it up so it's kind of in the middle. And then we're just going to snap it on the back here on the right hand side. You can see the points where it's going to go. So all you're going to do is just line this in and press it down and it should snap into place. Exactly the same for the other paddle. Again, we're going to grab the screwdriver and we're just going to put it down these little holes here, just in case there is anything stopping the rod from going inside. If you just put the screwdriver in and just twist it left and right. I've personally never had to do that before, mine have all been fine, but it's just in case you do ever have an issue and you can't get the rod in. And then that rod should just simply slide in, and again put it in the middle. And if you grab the back piece here, and we're just going to line it up again, and we're just going to snap it into place. And then once that's done, if you just grab the back piece here, and you can see we've got 4 holes, we're just going to line these up with this. When you do line it up, it'll kind of make it solid, and then if you just turn it over again, we've got 4 holes on the back here. Make sure these are lined up, and then we're just going to put the screws in. Again, clockwise, you've got 4 of them. You get these with the kit, and these are the screws here. So we're just going to quickly put all 4 of these in. When you put that final screw in, if you just double check this and just make sure everything is lined up properly, you can see here on the top and the bottom, everything is fine. And then what we're going to do next is grab this ribbon, we're going to put it through the hole what's in the back of the control pad. And then we're just going to grab this little board here. There's a tiny little latch what you're going to be lifting up, and this is going to lock the ribbon cable in place. So if you just gently lift that latch up, put the cable inside of it, just make sure it's lined up, and then when it is pressed in, you're just going to press the latch down just to lock it into place. And then if you pull the back part of the controller up, so you just take some of the slack off, and then you can see here there's 2 tiny little tabs on the bottom here what line it up. And then in the top here we've got 2 holders for the screws. These are the really small screws that you're going to be fitting in here. So in the kit you'll have tiny screws, that's what's going to be going in here. 1 on the left and 1 on the right. When that final screw's in, what you're going to be doing next is just lining everything up and squeezing the control pad together. Just make sure nothing's sticking out and everything is lined up. Just use your hands to squeeze it all together. Both sides, left and the right, make sure it all snaps into place. Now the next thing you're going to be doing is grabbing this back piece here, what came with the kit. And another tiny little piece was this. This is just when you put it in remap mode, you'll be able to see the light a lot better. Now this goes in this way, it goes downwards, but put it in on a little bit of an angle, and then once it is, just press it, because there's two tiny little tabs holding that into place. And that's what it should look like. And then another piece what came with the kit is this. This is the tiny little piece that's going to be used for remapping. You're going to hold this, there's only one way this can go in, and that's what it should look like. And then if you hold the control pad upside down, and we're going to go from the top to the bottom, and that should snap into place, and that's what it should look like. Just press your buttons to make sure everything's working, everything looks fine. Now we're going to be replacing the two screws that we took out at the very start on the top, the one on the left and on the right hand side. Again, we're going to be going clockwise with these. The original screws are these ones, and we're just going to be fitting them. When both them screws are in, you're going to be focusing on the bottom now. You've got another two here on the left and the right. Again, you're going to be going clockwise. When they're in, the next thing that you're going to be doing is fitting L1 and R1. To do that, you're just going to line these up and just press them down, and then just give them a press after you have fitted them, just to make sure they're all working. So just like I say, line them up, press them down, and then just give them a quick press to make sure they're working. And then if you grab this front fascia bit, this should all just snap into place. This part of the video is going to be for the RMB metal back button kit. We're going to be doing the same as we're doing at the earlier part of the video. We're going to be showing you what you get inside the kit, which is the rubberized back cover here. You've got your ribbon cables, and inside this little packet here, you've got your prying tool and your screwdriver. You've also got your spare screws, just in case you ever do need them. And this part here is just your paddles, your button, and the back casing. So you can see here, this is your first paddle, and it's made from metal. Same with the little button here, remap button, metal as well. And your other paddle. And this is the plastic piece, what you're going to be using the 4 screws for to hold it in. And this is the back cover again, metal. And as always, you get your little warranty card inside here. What we're going to be doing now is fitting the paddles and the back piece. So you can see this is what it looks like. And the first thing we're going to be doing is grabbing this plastic piece. This is obviously going to be to hold the paddles in place, and this is the first paddle. So if you grab your screwdriver, again, if you want to put it down the hole and just twist it left and right, it's just in case there's any sort of paint residue or anything stopping the rod from going down. And then if you grab one of your rods, and they should just slide straight into place. Make sure that's lined up in the middle, and then we're just going to put it on the back here, line it up, and it should just snap into place. Exactly the same for the other one. If you want to grab your screwdriver and put it inside the hole, just to make sure nothing's stopping the rod from going inside, just give it a little twist to the left and the right. And then if you grab another little rod and you just put this inside, slide it in, make sure it's lined up in the middle. And if it is, we're just going to put it on the back piece here. Again, line that up, and just press it down and it should snap into place. And that's what it should look like. The next thing is we're going to be putting this on the back here. You're just going to line this up with the holes. You can see there's 4 of them there. Once it does line up, it shouldn't move out of place. And then just double check that all these holes are lined up, ready for the screws to go in. And the screws that came with the kit, we're going to fit all 4 of them, and they're going to go clockwise. These are the screws that you're going to be using. So if we fit these now, when you fitted that final screw, if you just want to double check that everything is lined up, if you look from the top and the bottom, just to make sure everything looks fine, which it does. And then once you've done that, if you grab the ribbon cable and you're going to feed it through this little hole here on the back, and then just pull that through, just be careful. And then inside the kit you've got this board here. So on one side of the board you have a little latch that you're going to be opening. This just lifts up, you can just use your nails. And then all you're going to be doing is just sliding the ribbon cable inside here. You're just going to be gently pushing it inside. And then once that's in and it's lined up, you're just going to lock it into place by putting the latch down, and that's what it should look like. And then if you lift the back piece up here, just to get rid of some of the tension, there's 2 tiny little tabs that will line up. Make sure they are lined up, and then once they are, you've got 2 tiny little holes on the top here, what you're going to be using for the screws what came with the kit. Now these screws are going to be the really small ones, the tiny ones. You're going to fit both them, again clockwise on the left and the right hand side. When that screws in, all you're going to be doing now is just pressing the control pad all together, make sure everything's lined up, which it is, and then just use your hands to squeeze it all together on the left hand side and the right hand side. Just make sure there's no gaps or anything. You want to grab this back piece here, and this little tiny piece came with the kit. This is just to show the remap button when it's on, the little red light. So you're just going to be putting this down here on a little bit of an angle. And then there's 2 tiny little tabs what you're going to press this onto, and it should look like that. That's what it looks like on both sides. And then inside the kit you got this little piece, and you're just going to put that on top of here. That's what it should look like. And then if you've got a tiny little piece of tape, this is just going to hold this in place. You can just use some tweezers to take this off. And then if you just put this over the middle, that should hold that in place, and that's what it'll look like. And then to fit this, we're going to keep the control pad upside down, and we're just going to work from the top to the bottom, and then press the bottom, press the paddles, make sure they work, and the remap button. The next thing we're going to be doing is putting the 2 screws in on the top, the one on the left and on the right. Clockwise we're going to be fitting these. After you've fitted that screw, if you look on the bottom here, you're going to fit the other 2 screws on the left and the right hand side. Again, clockwise. When that final screw's been put in, now you're going to be replacing the L1 and R1. To do that, all you're going to do is line these up and just press them down. Just double check these when you have done them, press them, make sure they do work. And then the last piece is just to put the front fascia bit on. That just snaps into place like that. This here is just a little self-check mode. To do that, you want to hold K1 and the remap button. And you'll see the little light comes on. This is just to let you know that it is working. And then if you press one of the paddles, it should blink every time you press it, and that's just to make sure it's working. And if you want to hold the remap button in the middle for 5 to 6 seconds, you'll get a light what comes on, and that again just means it's the correct way of doing it. Now this self-check, if you were to do it wrong, this is what it would do. So again, you're going to hold K1 and the remap button together. And you can see here you've got a really rapid blinking, and that means it's wrong. And then if you hold the remap button when it is wrong, it'll do exactly the same thing. When you hold it, it'll rapidly flash, and that's just to let you know that it is wrong. This part of the video here, we're going to be showing you how you remap the buttons. So the first thing that you're going to do is obviously turn the control pad on. If you turn it over and you hold the remap button for 5 to 6 seconds, you should get a light what comes on indicating that it's in remap mode. And then it's totally up to you what you want to use as buttons, but in the video here, this is obviously what's been chosen. So K1 is R2. And K2 is L2. Personally, I go back right, so that's K1 is my X and K2 is my circle. When you're happy with which buttons you've picked, if you want to hold the remap button again for 5 to 6 seconds, and that'll take it out of remap mode, because if you leave it in remap mode, you won't be able to press any of the buttons. You can see here on the video they're using the back paddles, and that is aiming and shooting. So basically on screen what this means is you go into remap mode, and if you've got K1 to X, if you want to unassign that, you just hold K1 and X again, and that will unassign it. If you want to unassign both sides, you hold up, left, triangle, circle, L1 and R1 for 5 seconds, and then you'll get a slow light flashing 3 times. This will just mean that nothing is assigned anymore, so you can pick again if you want to put your buttons as anything, or you just want to leave them blank. If you have any input or advice, feel free to leave a message, but as always, thank you for watching the channel.